8 peaks, a heaven for cultivation. But for Liu Fei, heaven has no rest. 7 days. 7 nights. One sword, unsheathed over and over until his body screamed for mercy. But a single step beyond the mountains, and training turns into danger. A hidden valley. A forbidden hot spring. And the deadliest woman in the Celestial Sect, aiming an arrow at his heart. This is Chapter 8, The Arrow and the Sword. When speed meets precision. In the previous chapter, Liu Fei entered the Celestial Pavilion. A hall where ancient techniques lie forgotten, waiting for the bold. 2 paths. One, graceful like the wind. The other, deadly, sharp, and merciless. He chose sword unsheathing. 1 strike, for 1 kill. A skill that leaves no room for failure. To match it, he claimed moonlight feather. Speed enough to vanish before the enemy's eyes. 7 days of relentless training have passed. But now, Liu's sword will face its first true test. In a place he should never have entered. Against an opponent, who never misses her mark. The Celestial Sect was surrounded by 8 mountain peaks. Each of these mountains was connected with the other in perfect harmony. Celestial Sect's disciples could thus easily go to these high-altitude mountain peaks. These mountains, which made the region a blessed heaven, were filled with caves where disciples could go and concentrate on their training in peace. These mountains were extraordinarily high and covered a vast area. Going to these mountains was therefore an easy way to find peace and tranquility for cultivation. Liu Fei was walking over a precipice decorated by overhanging rocks. He was surrounded by perilous cliffs and precipices. When looking around him, he could see a boundless sea of clouds. Such a sight would make anyone feel carefree, relaxed and joyful. However, Liu Fei didn't have the heart to enjoy the sight. He had been uninterruptedly practicing the sword unsheathing skill over and over again. Boom was the sound emitted by the stones under Liu Fei's sword each time he hit them. Liu Fei's sword left a long and slender opening in the stones each time it hit. Liu Fei had already been training for 7 days. He had been training without rest, which could be seen by the varying sword marks on each stone. Sword unsheathing was a skill which required developing 2 aspects, speed and power. These 2 were the ultimate goal of the practice. At the moment of unsheathing the sword, a strong power was also necessary. As far as the angle at which the sword had to be unsheathed is concerned, unsheathing it at irregular angles was also necessary. Indeed, pulling it out using predictable patterns could put the user at the enemy's mercy, as he could guess what the next movement would be. The sword unsheathing skill was definitely not a regular technique. Liu Fei was dripping with sweat because he had been training every day from morning to evening. Uninterrupted practice was the only way to increase his strength. Persistently repeating the movements required a tenacious and incomparable willpower and determination. That was the only way to become stronger on the path of cultivation. Liu Fei hadn't forgotten his previous life. He couldn't forget. Although that world was filled with lofty sentiments and righteous ardor, one also had to go through hardships in that world. Being weak and lacking power could lead to getting killed. Weak and powerless, that sounded like what Liu Fei was when he almost got killed by Hun Gray. However, Liu Fei's dark spirit was gaining in vitality every minute, like he is in a trance state. He then stopped practicing the skill for a moment and recalled his spirit back into his body. The spirit was the cultivator's soul and it had to be cherished, unceasingly using it consumed one's vital essence too much. Liu Fei put his sword back into its sheath. The sheath was made of a ferocious animal skin which had a sparkling gem embedded. Then, he started training again, but this time he practiced the moonlight feather agility technique. The sun, which was once high in the sky, was now sinking into the horizon. Liu Fei rested for a while looking at the sea of clouds making wave-like motions. On his face was a resplendent smile. He then unsheathed the sword and held it forward, watching the dark red light from the sunset slowly move down the sword, imagining it as blood flowing endlessly. He felt like a god looking down upon creation. This place gave him a view of the surrounding mountains, and the aura he was currently emitting was one of strength with a ruthless coldness beneath. It's about time to find a cave to practice. Liu Fei rested for a while, then got up and walked over to the mountains. It wasn't long until Liu Fei found a few caves for cultivation. They were always occupied by other people though. Then, Liu Gray arrived in a valley where a mountain stream was flowing. He decided to walk along the mountain stream when something drew his attention and made him stop walking. A ray of sunlight between these mountains. Before him were two peaks. The middle of these two peaks looked like the marks he left when hitting rocks with his sword. It looked very narrow in between, as if the path could only accommodate two people walking side by side. The path looked as narrow as the ray of sunlight. I wonder what there is over there. Liu Gray thought to himself. He then moved closer with curiosity. It seemed that the mountain stream and the ray of sunlight came from the same place. At a distant place, two disciples saw Liu Gray move towards that ray of sunlight. They couldn't help but laugh at him and criticize him. That piece of trash is not very lucky. He doesn't seem to know that is the place where our senior sister Liu Fei trains. It is quite surprising that he dares go in there. Liu Fei's strength is incomparable to ours. She is much stronger than we are, much stronger than most of our fellow disciples, a true genius. Senior sister is the only correct way of addressing a genius such as her. While the two disciples were whispering, Liu Gray had already walked several hundred meters into the area where the ray of sunlight was coming from and finally arrived. Before his eyes opened up a wide panorama. That place was one of exceptional charm and was extremely vast. On the left was a gigantic lake out of which silk-like hot steam was evaporating. It surprisingly seemed to be a natural hot spring. It's such a nice place, I could have bathed. Liu Gray's clothes were sticking to his skin as he had been sweating heavily. He took off his top and directly jumped into the natural hot spring. So comfortable. Liu Gray was filled with happiness when he suddenly heard a noise coming from somewhere in the water. Suddenly, he saw a girl's head come out of the water. Her hair looked very soft. It was a 15 to 16-year-old young girl. She had arched eyebrows and a delicate oval face. She was very beautiful. In this world, female cultivators were very beautiful because they cultivated purer bodies. She was a charming natural beauty and certainly didn't need to put makeup on. Nonetheless, that young girl's eyes didn't make her look very amicable. Her eyes were filled with flames of anger. Liu Fei was holding her breath and practicing in the water. She was very surprised to see another Celestial Sect's disciple. Even more, she couldn't stand seeing him without his top in the water where she practiced every day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for the next episodes. Like and share.